Eat my Wookiee whole cheddar. So good.
It's definitely going to start with you saying Wookiee whole cheddar.
Imagine that.
I think it did. I don't know, maybe not.
I'm trying to open him up. Find out. Let's see.
Or me saying it.
Guys, it's a bit quiet. I'm not sure if it's my phone or I guess it's my phone, right? So
It might be.
With it.
You got your earphones in.
it is my phone. All right.
Spoiled this evening, Karen. I've got 2 flavors of Jaffa cake, Wookiee whole cheddar.
I've got nothing. I have a can of Pepsi Max Cherry inside my desk.
I'm gonna make vegan snacks.
Yeah, just have some nuts.
Non-vegan hot chocolate.
I've got Lidl's finest.
Hell yeah.
We are very cheap.
Oh, but little beers are pretty good. For how much they are.
Yeah.
They are quite good.
They are, but you have to drink them in vast quantities, I find. To get the same effect. I don't know, same with any beer, isn't it?
Yeah. These are like a little orange one.
What you're saying, like it's a problem.
That is why
Yeah, I know
I'm a
what you mean,
spiritual
Dave.
man.
I used to get their cider when I used to drink cider until I realised that you're slowly poisoning yourself with arsenic.
Yeah.
Their cheap cider was particularly rough, but it was cheap, so it did the job.
Or was it their rough cider was fairly cheap?
Yeah, both. It kind of tasted the same coming up as it did going down, but it did the job.
What's the fun? Right. Oh, now I've managed to start digesting that Jaffa cake. Should we get cracking? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all well. Good evening, Marie, already. Hello. Yeah, so we've got an awesome guest tonight. We've got a new band to the Southwest scene, Empire of One. How are you doing, gents?
Hello.
I've just realised I haven't
I'm
changed
good.
the name.
Good. How are you?
Not
Good,
too
thank you,
bad.
Good.
Thank you.
Yes, very well. Thank you.
you for
Would you like
having
to introduce yourselves and what you do in the band?
Yeah,
I'll go first. I'm Tarek, vocals and guitar.
Awesome.
Okay. Tom, bass guitar.
Glenn, drums. I thought I'd let the musicians go first.
Well, pleasure to meet you all. Obviously, Glenn, we've known you from previous acts and having a few shows together. And we've got a show booked with you guys in Yeovil on the 15th of December. So anyone in Yeovil, come on down. It's our last show of the year. And is it your guys' first show in the area?
Yeah, it is the first local one. Yeah,
Fantastic.
we've done Bristol before, but Yeovil. We were due to play Yeovil quite a while ago, but we ended up not happening with yourselves and Duskwood for various different reasons.
That's right, yes.
At the railway when it existed, but yeah, this will be the first one in Yeovil.
Oh, fantastic. Well, there's a debut for you guys out there in Yeovil. Come on down. We plan to party.
Oh yes.
It's our last show of the year. We're gonna make it pretty good. It's gonna be fun.
You're gonna,
Like it's 1990.
you're gonna epic it out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time, yeah. Well, the drinks are pretty well priced at the Duke of York, I will say that. And we've never been out in Yeovil, so I'm really curious to see
You
what
haven't
that's
missed
like.
anything.
We'll bring the party to Yeovil then.
Witherspoons is worthwhile, isn't it?
Spoons is always reliable, isn't it?
It's gone a little bit downhill ever since Wilkinson's has closed, though, because Wilco's was dead opposite.
I don't get what's the relationship between Wilco's and Spoons?
Oh, so, yeah, you probably do. Yeah. You used to get the winos that used to go and buy the terps and the white spirit when they couldn't afford the booze in Witherspoons, and rumor has it that it tasted a little bit better. But that's
I can believe that, to be fair, anytime. It's just alcohol in that, you know.
it's never been the same since they made terp substitute. It just doesn't have the same kick anymore.
Yeah, you just can't snort it anymore, can you? It's rubbish. Anyway, yes. So, would you like to tell us a bit about Empire of One? What sort of inspirations you guys have had when it comes to writing with this band?
If
Should
you
I go
let me talk first,
or-
I'll just overtake. Yeah. Go
You know,
Tarek.
it's funny. Like we called the band Empire of One. That was Glenn's idea, by the way. And then we found out there was a song by Jawbox called Empire of One, and I'm a big Jawbox fan.
Me too.
But I guess, I mean, for me, the way it kind of started, you know, I moved to the area about 3 years ago. This is during COVID, and I've always been in bands, and I wanted to start a band. And I've always been into hardcore, especially like sort of East Coast American hardcore, and I grew up with it, and Glenn and I have talked about this before. It's kind of it's my culture, if I was to say if there's any kind of music that speaks to me, really speaks to me. So I write hardcore tunes, and I just put out this random ad on Join My Band. I was like, I want to start a band. I want to start a hardcore band in the area that listen to, Fugazi, that listen to like newer hardcore bands, Madball, even like I don't know if I put Knock Loose on the ad, Glenn, but I'm a
Yeah, I
big
think
Knock
so.
Loose fan.
Yeah.
And so all these bands that I'm really into. And then Glenn was the only person to hit me back, and it was like, hey man, I want
It was
to
bizarre. I think
get
we
this jam.
posted within about half an hour of each other randomly,
Yeah.
and just contact. It's just the fact that I'm like, Jesus, someone first of all, someone mentions Fugazi, and they actually want to play like Fugazi. It's like because the band I was in
Which
at
is
the
a huge.
time, yeah, band I was in at the time.
Yeah, we don't
wasn't-
sound anything like Fugazi, by the way.
No, but it was that it was that sort of stuff.
We don't sound
What's
influenced.
always inspired me. Band I was in at the time wasn't really what I was after, so I was looking for something else. And we just literally happened to cross paths, and it was perfect. The fact that we got similar sort of interest. I've never met anyone even in this area that's even been to see Fugazi once. I think you said you'd seen them about 30 times, maybe.
Yeah, like they used to come through my town all the time when I was growing up, right? So they were just a big Discord Records were just really big, growing up. So, and it's not, I mean, not only that, obviously like into other sort of like heavier rock stuff as well, like lots of metal and metalcore and newer stuff like that. So, and then of course, the gorgeous Tom joined the band, and then we kind of became. I think Glenn and I were jamming for like a year before Tom joined, and then
I think it was only-
it all sort of started coming together, and then we put out this little EP. And granted, it's been a bit slow, but we like to take our time crafting the songs, I guess, right?
old man hardcore. You see, that's the thing. You can't go too fast when you're. That's the
Yeah,
other
there's
difference as well.
no age, there's no ageism in hardcore. That's the best thing. Best thing about hardcore, there is no ageism in it whatsoever.
Well, that's what was so good, because it's difficult to find people of a similar sort of age that have got that kind of history and interest in the music. I'm talking mostly really between Tarek and I. Tom is kind of coming from a slightly different angle. So we all sort of meet in the middle, but we've all got the things that we're trying to bring into the party. So I think initially Tarek and I we set out to try and do a bit of a Discord DC sort of band, but I don't think we were ever that happy with what we were doing. The first year songs that we wrote, we relatively quickly dropped, and we just kind of found where we sat. And a lot of that is to do with Tom, because Tom brings his influence in. So we all have to sort of meet in the middle. Obviously, we're all trying to push the stuff that we like and the influences that we've got, and we just seem to have found what makes us happy and what we enjoy playing, which is really good.
And so,
breath of fresh air.
yeah, and so we end up sounding a little bit like Helmet and a little bit of Snapcase in there, I think.
Yep.
And a little bit like, I don't know. Tom, you speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I say you joined you two guys, and you're going, oh yes, I've been to see Fugazi, and I'm sort of sat there going, oh yeah, I know the name. And every week it's half a dozen new bands to listen to, but no, we all bring our own things to the band, makes our own sound. I probably listen to a lot more mainstream in the rock metal world than these guys, but I started talking to the guys at work about it, and they look at me like I'm talking about moon rock. But I'll listen to the likes of Killing Joke, the Wild Hearts, stuff like that. Slightly different to the other guys, but it all comes together, and it's a reasonably unique sound, I think. So
I think it would be far more boring if everyone was on the same page, because then you're trying to sound like either a band or a genre. That's why when people say describe none of us know how to describe what we do. We are what we do, and we're not afraid to throw in stuff that we like to do. Unashamedly, some of the riffs that are in there are metal. Unashamedly, I've borrowed phrases from certain drummers and tried to make it my own. That's completely metal. But then you'll get an underlying bass line from Tom that's doing something slightly different. Tarek's doing his own thing. Quite often, all three of us are doing our own separate thing, and it seems to work. We seem to have this predisposition to make songs as awkward and difficult to play as they can be.
That's about right. Yeah.
Just
We
by
have,
playing.
we
Yeah,
have a
you
bit of
know,
an issue in the band where when we let Stevie write a drum part, it's awful for Aaron. Stevie has no idea about drums. He's a guitarist through and through. And poor Aaron just kind of has to deal with whatever comes out the other end. And it could be any time signature with
Yep.
it's not counted beforehand. It's just it needs to sound like that. But bit of push and pull on the songwriting side of things, we end up with a pretty cool sound, I think. And I think what you guys are saying there, like having these different ingredients coming into the mix, is really what it's all about. Anyway, you want to. I mean, it'd be really easy to kind of, I guess not easy, but it'd be a route that I think is well trodden to write songs that already sounds like something you already know and that you heard and it's familiar, and you know you're going to go a certain distance if you do it. But actually, genuinely creating something between the group of you from different backgrounds, different sounds. That's way more exciting, in my opinion. That.
I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of stuff that we come out with sometimes just starts as a random jam while we're tuning up, warming up, and then next thing you know, we've been noodling away for 5 minutes. Going, hang on, that sounds bloody good. What was that you were doing?
Yeah,
That's ironically that's been our problem. There's no shortage of riffs. We write so much stuff, we jam, we say we really like that, and then next week we're on to something different and we're on to something different. We've probably written 3 LPs worth of stuff now, but then we move on to something else and then we try and remember what we go back. So we're now trying to get to a point where we're just recording stuff before we forget it. And like the latest thing that we're working on is something that's probably 10 months old, perhaps even a year old, something that's always been in our head that we've gone back to, that we've enjoyed. So we write too much and then it can become a little bit throwaway, but I think we're getting a bit more disciplined now. You know, having gigs set up doesn't half concentrate the mind, you know.
It forces you into it, right? Yeah,
It really
I think,
does. Yeah.
We're very similar with songwriting, actually. We sort of in the rehearsal room, we'll always record down 1 or 2 ideas on the phone. Best thing we've got really doing is trying to get a good sort of method of cataloging when we're jamming. So I'm like, if Stevie's just playing a little thing, he's noodling while the drums are being set. I'm like, wait, Stevie, before you continue, let's just put this on camera and then we can move on to the next thing and work on the set. But let's get it down so that when we do go into a proper like organized songwriting session, we got a whole library of things to look at now, and it's really kind of weeding out the weaker ones is the hard part to me now. It's like trying to find out which ones you think, okay, there's a really cool part there, but can it be a song? Or is it hooky enough to be in this part of this song we've already been working on? Lots of that going on, but definitely cataloging is everything.
Yeah, so easy to forget.
Holding on to riffs is so like it's, you know, oh, that's a great riff, you know, oh, we'll try and, you know, sort of surgically insert it into a song.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just like totally doesn't work, you know, it's like a total disaster, but then just keep that riff and see what happens, you know, down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And you say
Really
you guys are a bit sort of slow and methodical when it comes to songwriting, but I think that's the better way personally. I mean, there are kind of 2 major routes that bands tend to take on the industry side, and that is either they'll write, say, 300 songs, cut it down to 30, then take that to the producer and cut that down to 10 for the final album, or meticulously work on the same song over and over until they feel it's right. They chisel it from the stone in a way, and we're very much that way too. We when we play a set, we're playing all our songs. That's all we've got. So
yeah, that's it.
Us too, honestly.
Yeah. I think it's more fun. I like the idea that you're kind of, like I say, chiseling away at something and you're refining it and perfecting it until you're happy to take it to a studio. You get to test it on an audience. Oh, this bit doesn't quite work. You know, members of the crowd looked a bit bored here. Maybe we could do something different there. You can really work on it over time. I think that's more interesting. It's way more exciting.
Yeah, I think.
And it's weird being in a 3-piece as well, because being in a 3-piece, it's like, you know, the burden, like especially if you're like the guitar player singer. No, I'm not saying that, and nobody else has a, you know, there's something like if I screw up, then that's like, you know, monumentally bad, right? So, but regardless, yeah, it's try to make the band sound fuller. I think also that's the other issue I've got. I mean, I've got a great, you know, guitar, like my guitar sounds unbelievably amazing. I don't know what's happened. There's been like a bit of an accident, a happy accident with my guitar.
Yeah.
So it's a Telecaster.
It's sat on it and now it sounds awesome.
But it just sounds absolutely incredible. It does, you know, and it's just like, and everything else I've tried, you know, with like umpteen humbuckers and you name it, just doesn't reach the same, you know, it just doesn't sound the same as that guitar that I'm playing. So I'm really happy with the guitar, and I think that's kind of filtering through to the songs and like it just allows me to write riffs, you know, every time jam, you know. So
Yeah, for sure.
which
I
is
feel
really
like when
important.
you feel like you sound good, it's so much easier to write and feel more free flowing with it. I find that definitely with vocals, especially, and the same with drums. Actually, it's when you're playing a nice kit, Glenn, you can probably attest to this. You're playing a nice kit, you're going to come out with some wild shit. If you're playing the old beaten up backline set that they've had for the last 10 years, you're gonna stick to the basics and try and make them sound good. You know?
You do. The amount of times you sit down and you're like, oh fuck. You
Yeah.
know it's going to be it's going to be a nightmare. You know, it's like the amount of times that I've had someone actually sit with their foot on the bass drum to stop it from moving, because I do
Yeah.
play very hard. And there was a particular gig. Hugh from Duskwood won't mind me mentioning this. We played with Duskwood, and he's got a really nice Ludwig kit at the time, but one of the legs broke at the front of it, so it was just moving constantly. We ended up getting some strapping to try and, I thought, had a brilliant idea. I'll put that around my drum stool and strap it against my the bass pedal, which was great, apart from the fact that the strapping was in the way of the way I was playing. Then all it did was drag me around with the kit. So me and the bass drum are moving away from the entire, but you still get through it. But the odd time that you do get to play on something half decent, and that's the good thing about having your own setup, where you can just sit there and just keep plugging away at different things, and then you can arrive at practice and say, look, this is what I've got. Or you wait until you think, you know what, that will fit with what I've been messing around with. It doesn't necessarily always fit, but I think that's what we kind of like, that challenge of, no, I know that you're playing 4/4 and I'm playing 3, but it will resolve at some point, so let's just try and shoehorn it in. And it generally, it does work. If you're comfortable with what you're doing, I suppose. I'm completely going off tangent now.
No, I agree. I think some of the more interesting songwriting is to do with that sort of, I guess, polysignatures, almost phrasing, bringing it together over a period of time, because it does feel like there's like almost a delayed sense of resolve when it does come together. I know a lot of bands, even bands like Biffy Clyro, do things like that, more on the more poppy side. But when it does come together, I think it sounds absolutely fantastic, and it's something that's not really explored that much. So if you can do it, go for it, man. It's nice.
Well, let's see what happens on the 15th.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing what you guys do.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you've got an EP recorded. Is that something that's up on digital sites, or is that just a physical thing?
Yeah, it's up on.
Yeah, it's on Spotify. Yeah.
Fantastic. I will get a link to that in the chat.
All of the
Deezer,
usual
Bandcamp, everywhere. Yeah.
everything that DistroKid distributes to. That's where you can find it. Yeah.
Fantastic. And the name of the EP, just to confirm?
This music's not for you.
Music's not for you. Fantastic.
It might
I will
be,
get that
but-
one.
Again, that was just a take on something that I overheard someone saying. The place that I used to work, basically, he was trying to find out if I could find a band for New Year's Eve, this covers band. Maybe your band would want to do it. And someone else who I knew the sort of stuff that we were playing, and they just said to him, "No, that music's not for you." And that just stuck in my head, and I thought that's a great.
It's weird though. I guess one of the weirdest things with the band is the vocals, right? And Glenn and Tom know this, right? But because of the influences that we have, right? The vocals aren't very screamy, right? They're actually more singy than screamy, right? And a bit talky, right? So I think there's something about that I mean, I think it differentiates us a little bit, because we're not coming out like, the riffs are quite heavy, the drums are heavy, obviously the bass lines are really heavy. But there's another thing about genre pegging that's a bit weird here. It's not, I wouldn't call it pure hardcore now, and I wouldn't call it that. And I think the vocals kind of do something there for that, Anyway, yeah. So it is what it is, I guess, right? So it's kind of it's just emerged the way it has.
No,
Yeah, I think
But we're not trying to be exclusionary by saying this music's not for everyone. Like, we're not trying to be exclusionary. It's just
kind of ironic, isn't it? It's nice.
Yeah,
I like that.
it's a play on. Yeah, it's kind of a play on basically what most people would think. It's like my wife once said she saw an album cover of it and immediately said, "I can immediately tell you what sort of music that will be," and she was right. And so people have this predisposition of whether they're going to like something or whether they're not going to like it. So I think you might as well just go full on and just say, well, this music's not going to be for you anyway. Maybe it challenges other people to say, well, actually, yes, it is.
Probably pushes the right buttons in some ways, actually. I know, was it Was it Korn or was it Callum? You'll
System
know
of a
what's
Down.
the yeah, System
know
of a Down
Steal
that
This
did the
Album.
"Don't Steal This Album." Yeah,
Still this
I love
Steal
album.
that
This
kind
Album.
of thing. That's really cool. That it's got its own kind of viral quality to it. Just had a
Yeah.
few comments come in. So Marie, who has confirmed she's coming to the show in Yeovil on the 15th, says that's such a cool name. So approval's right there.
Thank you,
Good
Marie.
evening, Shanice.
Right.
And good evening, Aaron. Nice to see you both in the chat. Hope you're both well. And hopefully we'll see you at a show soon. Anyways, Callum, I'm going to send over to your way, sir. Hopefully you've got some questions ready.
Woohoo. Yeah, we've got one. What inspired you to play your instruments that you played? Was there like a standout moment or a standout band, which really highlighted the instrument for you?
You go first,
well,
Glenn.
Yeah, for me,
Or
it
Tom.
was really, really. Yeah. Well, I no, Tom, you go first.
All right, okay. I mean, I'm a relative newcomer to the bass. It's only been about 4 years since I picked up. Mainly because I was just jamming. I've been playing guitar in a few covers bands in the '90s, and then marriages, mortgage, and kids happened, and it all went to the side. And then divorce happened, and it all came back again. And I was jamming with a few guys, all of whom played guitar, and pretty much I just thought, if we're gonna carry this on, neither of them we're gonna drop a guitar. So I picked up a bass and haven't looked back ever since. Really, it's I think I found my calling.
Nice.
Yeah, for me, it was a kind of a no-brainer. In again, without showing my age too much, it's I remember coming home and Top of the Pops was on. If you know what Top of the Pops is, you young chap. Top of the Pops was on. I'd always been into music because my parents were into music. My mum listened to Elvis a lot, and my dad used to like a lot of skiffle stuff. So it always got quite a good sort of rhythm to it. So there was always something playing in the car whenever we went on road trips. So I'd always tuned it in. So I was aware of music. It never really struck me until I came home. Top of the Pops, and it was Adam and the Ants playing Dog Eat Dog, and I literally stood there transfixed and thought, "That's music. That's music as well." Really, because they had two drummers, and there was just something about it that really, really hooked me in. Fast forward to years later, I was into BMX, skateboarding, etc., and we literally sat around the car park one night and said, "Let's form a band." "Play guitar, I'll do it." I said, "I'll play drums." Immediately went out and got drum lessons. I was quite a late starter, like the age of 17, and then probably spent about the next 14 years in various different bands, cutting my teeth, trying to hone my craft. So it was always, I think, something that I was inevitably going to get into. My dad bought me a drum kit straight away, and that's practiced in the garage and just wanted to do as much as I could and learn as much as I could. So fairly boring, but yeah.
No, that's pretty good. I didn't realize Adam and the Ants had two drummers. So
They did, yeah. Both called Terry. They were Terry Lee Mile and Terry Merrick.
The two Terrys.
Yeah, although one, yeah. I'm just gonna bang on about Adam and the Ants. I promised I wouldn't.
Yeah, so I mean, with guitar, I mean, I've been playing guitar since I was 12, so guitar has always been, important to me. The only thing that's changed with, like, I've never, veered off into other instruments or anything, but the only thing that changed was basically when I saw other bands and how they played guitars. Like, I went through, I don't know if you guys remember the crazy metal years when you had people like Steve Vai, 7-string guitars, and you had like, Nitro and his double sort of armed guitar, and just like it just went all crazy. I kind of like lost interest a little bit. But then I remember seeing Bad Brains this is in like 1991, 92, and that was just like life changing right there. The minute I saw Bad Brains, it was just like, you can do that with a guitar, and it was just like, yeah. So just the energy of that show and whatever. So ever since then, I've been more dogged with guitar. So I've always played guitar, and I had other bands. We kind of skirted different genres, but when I saw Bad Brains, that was like pivotal for me. That was really kind of nailed it.
Nice. That's awesome, man. Yeah. Sweet. It's you know what? Every time we do this question, it's there's always something new to get from every single story. It's really nice. Just man.
Oh, good.
It's crazy how different everyone comes to finding their instruments and that. Because some people just like, I just like playing bass.
I was
That's
to
not
say,
the way
how
it
was
sounds.
it? What brought you to it? Was it something you picked up from a youngster, or how did you get into it?
Callum, do you want to go first?
Yeah, why? I started with guitar when I was like in primary school, just like acoustic guitar. We just started just doing like allegros and actual music theory and that. And then I broke my guitar, but by knocking it over and snapping the headstock off, which was quite sad. I was really upset about that. And then didn't touch it ever since. So then I was playing like Guitar Hero. It's like a video game. We just play guitar, press the buttons, and that was always fun. And we always did a rock band. It was like we did family game night, and we'd all play rock band. And then I would always play bass on that, and it was just it was always fun, just going for it, and I always loved playing the bass. I think that really cemented it for me, which is quite bad. And obviously seeing all bands and everything really brought it up. But yeah, I think mainly rock band.
That's crazy though. The Guitar Hero rock band phenomenon really got a lot of people back into music.
Yeah, it really did.
Fucking
And people
big
who
time.
weren't in bands probably,
Yeah,
probably
there was
helped.
that partner with Tenacious D, and I think there was an absolute resurgence in rock music.
I always found trying to play Guitar Hero when you already know how to play elements of the song though was an absolute pain in the neck because
Yeah.
you're trying to press the wrong buttons at the wrong time.
I can imagine that, trying to position actual chords on there.
Yeah.
Well, they did bring out Rocksmith, didn't they? Where you plug in an actual guitar and play that way. I never really gave it a go, but I'm pretty sure Stevie, when we were working on the early demos for the Soul EP, was actually demoing through Rocksmith. So that's
Yeah, it had like preamps and everything. Rocksmith was crazy.
it's pretty good.
Got a lot of
Man.
settings and stuff,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was really good.
Yeah, man. I remember the days of custom build on Guitar Hero World Tour, putting in your own songs. That was full on that. For me, it was, I started off on drums. So I moved to vocals because all the bands I was playing in, we couldn't find vocalists. So I actually, like the guy who was playing guitar in the band, Ollie, he actually was the drummer as well, and he'd been playing longer than me. So he'd move on to the drums, and I'd end up trying out the vocals, and I sucked like shit for a good few years. But it did give me that confidence to get up on the stage and just sort of go, who cares? And so yeah, a few years of gigging when I was about 15 to 18, that kind of period of time at school. Continued with the drums, and the same thing happened again. I was drumming originally for what was to become Regional 1. Couldn't find a vocalist again, moved on to vocals again. A lot more confident this time, could actually hold a few notes, so that was nice. And luckily I'm a total fucking show off, so it was really natural to sort of move on to the front of the stage. But yeah, so kind of almost by accident, really moving on to vocals. But now I don't think I have a preference really too much. I don't know. I do like shouting at people. I still do drums in other bands and stuff. I got a degree in drums at ACM and got fully qualified in that, and done a lot of like session work. And I'm working in Dark Romantics now as well on the drums. But yeah. Singing wise, it was entirely by accident, but I fucking love it. I wouldn't change it for the world. So
I think there's probably a predisposition for drummers to be a singer. I did the same. I drummed for years, and to be honest, I just got sick of lugging my kit about.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, man.
It's a pain in the arse. I turned up, then I started to sing in the band. I was absolutely, ironically, it was so far, it's been one of the most successful bands I was in purely by accident, I think. Yeah. Purely because of the label we were on, but I was dreadful, absolutely chronically dreadful at singing. But it suited the kind of shit that we were doing at the time. But honestly, for me, it was purely the fact that I got sick of having to take my drum kit with me all the time. I could turn up. All I turned up with was a mic cover so that I didn't get other people's diseases.
Yeah,
That's literally all I turned up.
And I was the early days of doing that. Like I had a motorbike when I was 17, 18, so I could literally just turn up and plug in. It was nice.
Come on. Then I was getting pissed off waiting for everyone else. The drummer, what the hell are you fanning about for taking so long?
The problem, like when you get really efficient at it yourself, you're kind of like, come on.
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't have done that. Yeah.
So ironically, I've ended up being the one with probably the most gear now at a gig. So I ended up getting a van. I got a vocal rig, which has all our in-ears built into it and a desk and all that. So it comes full circle. I end up lugging shit around anyway, but currently I supply the kit, so fucked it there, didn't I?
Yeah, yeah, you got that wrong, didn't you?
Yeah, whoops. With this band, I wouldn't change it at all. I love our dynamic now, and also when it comes to like setups and stuff, we're all pretty on it. Like one of us will unload the van, the rest will log it in, and one of us will be setting up, and we tend to set up pretty quick. Sound checks fairly quick. It's nice. It's smooth. If there's any tech issues, I mean, problem is we've got a reasonably technical setup now, so that can take a bit of time. Just get the in-ear mixes, but you know, in the new year we'll be looking at ways to make that easier. But purely from a technical standpoint, it's really nice to be able to just sort of plug in the system and go for it now. It's really cool.
Well, you should be well practiced the amount of gigs you boys have been playing lately. From what I've
We
seen.
have been
Literally every weekend.
busy.
Please, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. We did November. We did I think it was 6 shows or something like that. It was nice.
Yeah, there's a few.
It was good fun, and
Wow,
we've done a few months where it's 6-7 shows this year. It was our target to do that because last year we did 1 month. I can't remember which. It was like June, July, or something like
It was
that.
like 2 every
And we did
week.
like, yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. We had a record where we did 3 shows in 24 hours. It was fucking amazing. That really
Nuts.
fun. That.
Wasn't it Elton John did that at Live Aid or something? Was it him? Someone flew from one to the other.
No, it was Phil Collins.
Phil Collins.
Ah, nice. Yeah, he's good. I think he's had enough now. Phil Collins, but he was brilliant. I've watched a lot of Phil Collins videos.
Yeah.
I mean, you see, yeah, you can never get away from it. It's
Yeah, damn right, man. Galen, what you got next, sir?
What have I got next?
That's not a good question, Callum. You're
We-
gonna have to think about that.
it's a pop quiz, is it?
I have a question,
sure.
man. I have a question about the tech. Like, you know, you were talking about the technical stuff.
Yeah.
Some of the effects you use for vocals and stuff like that. And I guess one thing that I've been thinking a lot about is how much tech to bring into our sound.
Sure.
And we're quite basic. Yeah.
Mhm.
We've got, you know, guitar sounds a certain way. The drums sound a certain way, right? And a part of me is a little bit fearful of bringing in, like I've been talking about getting a loop, you know, with a second amp, just so I can have a little bit of, some background riffs that I could potentially just trigger while I'm playing, which would sound really nice. But I know that if I go down that road, it's just going to be, I'm just going to really go down that road, you know?
So
I don't know.
what
Pedal.
we did
It's
with a
great.
few bits.
It's like
we,
cymbals. You can never have enough cymbals. Simon will attest to that.
That's
You can
true,
never
yeah.
have enough
Yeah.
cymbals.
How many effects can and drums as well? I can't stand the idea of just having 2 toms, which is an increasingly popular thing.
You've got to have
minimum
left
3
and right,
toms.
and yeah, exactly. Apart from when you have to start carrying shit about, that's what I'd like a few practices ago. I said, look, I've made it even bigger, and then it was such a pain in the ass to get in the car. I said,
See,
no,
I don't
no.
mind anymore. I'm willing to put in the only problem I get now is like miking up enough toms. Like, I used to run a prog kit, which was 2 snares, 6 toms, 2 bass drums. That was ridiculous.
Fat snare at the side, I assume.
Yeah, it was like a highly tuned one, a low tuned one, just so I could fuck around. Yeah, it was nice. But that was a bit insane. But for the things it was for, it made sense because you needed the different pitches on the toms to make the right kind of sounds. And a lot of it was, you know, the effect symbols, the splash, the china, all that kind of stuff that you need it every now and then. You don't need it all the time, but you kind of still need it there.
Yeah.
But I don't mind. Like,
when you
see
take it away,
the bigger bands bring their full kit, man. I'm
Yeah.
up for it. I love it. The more sounds, the merrier. Looks more important.
Well, I'm the same. Whenever people say, "Oh yeah, you can use my kit if you want," I'm saying literally, I need your floor tom and your bass drum. That take everything else away because I bring everything else purely because I've got such a not necessarily a weird setup, but a specific setup. It's easier for me to just, you know, I've got it honed so that I can have as least amount of cymbal stands as I can, like a Christmas tree with everything on it. So I arrive.
Got a few of those, eh?
I need to be in the car and gone within 12 minutes flat. You know, so it's all. It's
we recently worked with Ramesh Dodangoda up in Wales. He did Bring Me the Horizon, Motorhead, bunch of bands, and our drummer at the time had this single tree of just cymbals, and it would wobble so much, and it really bothered Ramesh. It was so funny.
See, but then necessity means that you've actually got to play a rhythm that keeps it balanced because it's going out. You know,
it's almost metronomic, right?
Yeah.
But back to the question, more so on the effects side with vocals. So I tend to, depending on where we go, I tend to let the sound engineer control the reverb and the delay. If I don't know the sound engineer, or if it's a smaller venue and we're running things ourselves, I do have a small TC Helicon reverb and delay pedal that I use, which just has effects that you can set up on there. You can put in reverb with delay, or you can separate them. You can affect how much you want it, how wet and dry it is, the timing of it and everything. So it is worth doing. I think vocals, you should always have a bit of verb anyway. If your desk can do it, then jobs are good. compression was the main thing for me because I sing really quiet on my low notes and really quite loud on the higher notes. So compression was a bit life changing.
You're just running compression all the time, all the way through, then even it
Yeah,
out.
I always my vocals are always compressed, and also getting a particularly sensitive microphone helped me a lot. I got a wireless Shure Beta 58A, which is quite a sensitive vocal mic. Also, it being a radio mic, I run around a lot. I'm quite restless, and I like to climb on things, so that helped a lot. But the sensitivity of that actually gives a particular distinct sound to our vocals a little bit as well. In terms of the EQ, again, I let the sound engineer take that. Depends on the room more so at this point. If we're playing bigger venues, if we're on, when we do move up to bigger shows where we're playing maybe stadiums, maybe that'd be nice. You're listening, Katie. Yeah. But when we're playing the bigger shows, hopefully I'll be able to have my own rig, which I can set up an EQ that I know works for my voice at any given space. I'd like to have a bit more control maybe over the compression in general. But again, if you're working in those size venues, you should hopefully be able to trust the sound engineer to know the venue and play with it a bit. It's just whether they know your music or not. The only difference there is, are you triggering effects because you know it's coming up in the song and it makes sense to do that, or are you doing it because you're covering sounds? So luckily we work with a few engineers that know our sound quite well now, so we let them have fun. They're part of the show. Same with the lights as well. Guitar wise, and in terms of putting loops and tracks, we use an SPD-SX. So that is essentially a drum brain which shoots midis out to the sound engineer. We run our click from that as well because we play a lot of our songs on click as metronomically tight as possible. And also it means that we never overrun on our sets if we can help it.
And you don't finish your song 20 BPM faster than you started.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for some songs, I'd love that. Like, if we're doing the more like Pink Floyd-y style songs, then I like a bit of push and pull on the tempo. But there's a lot of songs where it needs to, with our songs especially, we want it as tight as possible, on the beat, consistent. But being able to run that, we also put tracks and effects. So we used to have 5 members. We had a second guitar, rhythm guitar. The tracks that we wrote at that point, obviously, were written for 2 guitars. So we've put some of the guitar works. When there's a solo, for example, we've got the backing track running the old rhythm guitar part. So that'll kick in at the right point in the song. But that does mean there's no jamming. You can't fuck up. It has to be dead on time every single time. So it depends really what you want to do with the sound. But I can absolutely recommend running track if you want to build up a bigger, beefier sound in certain sections. Glenn, if you had the tech, you'd be able to just trigger it on the drums. We let the drummer.
Say if you're running it through, because I've got a drum module. I'm interested. No, you can actually run it through a module just via MIDI then.
Yeah. Everything's it's actually so it's a MIDI signal, but we because the pads technically I think they're running a MIDI signal, but the files are WAV files, so you just plug that into the SPD and off you go. It's USB driven, and but I know you can do certain things from drum brains. So you could do, for example, we do have MIDI effects like a massive bass boom that we quite like playing with.
Yeah.
So that just runs through, and again, you can get triggers on your drums eventually. There's all sorts of things you can do. So sorry for people watching who don't give a shit, but that stuff's really interesting.
I was just going to interject.
It's a slippery slope.
Do you run any triggers on your drums at all? Or
not yet, but I definitely plan on. That'll be one of the upgrades we look into, because I'd like maybe a snare trigger. Some of the songs, definitely a bass drum trigger eventually, because you want that.
I think bass drum triggers are really the way to go, dependent on the acoustics and dependent on the quality, not necessarily the quality of the kit that you're using, but depending how they've got it tuned up.
Yeah.
If you're playing exclusively double pedal, for instance, you can have it as loose as hell.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're playing, as I used to before I got a double pedal, just playing single pedal quite fast, I need quite a lot of bounce off your skin. So if I didn't get it, I was screwed.
Yeah.
But I think triggers, and it's also a case of the acoustics as well. Triggers are definitely something that
it's a consistent sound. It'll always come out consistently. Then I saw a band. We had a band working with us recently. Do you remember which band? I think it was White Noise who had the triggered kit.
Right.
I'm trying to remember if that's correct. But either way, one of the bands that we worked with. It was with the Dark Romantic show. This guy had triggers that were set up so that he'd essentially have different snare sounds, because he was doing some of the electronic sound. So he had some 8-bit sounds on there, which, for the kind of pop indie stuff they were playing, it was really cool to be able to intro with that and then flick the trigger off, and then it's straight into live sound again. So, but yeah, it does become noticeable when he did flick off the triggers. It was sort of noticeable, the difference in quality. So there's a bit of But again, it depends on what you're running.
Yeah, and as so many drummers say, it's cheating though, isn't it? You might as well just have a drum machine playing the drums, because if you're not,
it's like playing an electric kit almost. But what I'd like to think is that because we do it when it's recorded, we'll often have the raw snare sound mixed in with a triggered snare sound as well, so that it just beefs up the snare a bit. Same with the bass drum. So it'd be nice to have low mix triggers and then main mix being the live sound, I think.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. There's a lot of discussion about triggers, whether or not it's aesthetically correct that you should be doing it. But a recording engineer friend of mine actually said if you're recording an acoustic kit, the moment you put any EQ on it, it's not your sound anyway.
Exactly that, yeah.
So really, how far are you actually taking it? I thought that's a really good point, because so many people I've watched so much stuff about recording, particularly drums, where they're really pleased that the sound that they've got, or they've done a little bit of drum replacement. I'm so pleased with it. But when you hear it from the raw sound, it may as well just be a sample. So why don't you just use a sample, because that's what you're doing anyway, and cut out all of the points in between? It's a
for me, it's a blend of the two. A blend of the two. I mean, because you want live dynamic anyway. If we had those triggers on the whole time, they were consistent. We were playing a softer song like our song Chosen, for example. That'd be too overpowering. So what I want is I'd like almost a triggered EQ sound. You know what I mean? So that there's a consistent. This is the bass drum sound today, and this is what people are used to moving to now. I want that consistent, but I want the internal dynamics of the drummer to be inconsistent, because that's where the artistry comes into play to me. So it's finding that balance is really tough.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard. I mean, thinking a lot about bass and how that works as well is really interesting. So there was a recent show, I think it was Hellfest. It's on YouTube. Knock Loose were playing, and it was and playing one song, and somehow they somehow triggered some sort of sub bass coming out of the bass rack right through the crowd, right? And it was really picked up on the recording. It was amazing. It was just really, really powerful sub bass. So it was something that was really kind of like you'd expect more from sort of dance, potentially, like you'd expect it more from electronic music, that kind of sub bass. And I wondered whether if it was, did they do that on purpose, or was that an accident? Whatever they were doing. So just thinking about how to incorporate sounds, like
it's really thinking about building a sonic identity for the band, isn't it? But I think it's really easy to overthink it. When I was studying, I met Mark King. And actually, I think another good one. What was his name? There's Rick Astley, his bass player. I can't remember his name, but absolutely phenomenal bass player. And what he did, he was running
Is Mark King in level 42?
Yes, yeah. He's local. He's on the Isle of Wight.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not far from here. He's incredible. He went through all his tech specs and everything, but his pedal setup was nice. But obviously, some people, when he started the thumb thing, were basically saying that's not playing bass. But now it's like one of the most popular techniques out there, So I don't know. There's a bit of a push and pull with that kind of stuff. But back to the point of the sub. So the guy who was playing for Rick Astley at the time had a pedal which would essentially take the same signal that he was playing, and it'd run it basically an octave lower, but it'd filter it properly. So it was just sub sound, and it became a really popular thing to do, where the bass player is actually controlling the sub. But obviously, one of the things they then had to think about is where that's having issues with the bass drum. So a lot of them are running live sidechain compression, so that anytime the bass drum goes off, the bass guitar signal just drops out real quick. Yeah. So all these kind of things. For me, I think if technology can aid in creating the art, and it makes the art more powerful or more impactful, then I'm all for it. But when it starts becoming, I fucking hate DJing, for example. That's just pressing play. You can't lie to me on that one. But then you get the other kind of DJs who are live mixing the actual track. So it's, you know what I mean?
When you arrive at a gig with a USB stick,
that's an easy show. That. Then you also think, well, they're actually directing all that music to make the crowd feel a certain way for a certain period of time, and they're blending the BPM. And I lived with fucking 3 or 4 DJs at one point, and it just drove me insane for a while. But that was a hard one. But for me, it's if it's used to improve the art, then it's different to replacing it, which is really more my concern.
Yeah, I think that's a different. If you can enhance what you're doing, and if it's something that, don't be afraid. And I see a lot of a hell of a lot of metal, a lot of extreme. Someone local I know is now just when I say unashamedly, not that you should be ashamed of it. He's literally just replaced his bass drum just with a trigger pad. in his live kit. They're not even trying to hide it behind, an A to E kit or something like that. They're just saying, this is what I'm doing. I'm triggering it. Everything else is acoustic.
Yeah.
And so I think that's become part and parcel, and it's accepted in certain types of music. So why not? If it works for you, do it.
Do you know what? The one that sold me on it, because I wasn't sure about it. I think it was about 2013. We had a guest into ACM, Adam Wakeman. So he was running for Black Sabbath at the time, or Ozzy Osbourne's solo tour rather. And for Mr. Crowley, so he took over from a guy called Bill who was retiring. And so he learnt the full intro to Mr. Crowley. I don't know if you know it. It's fairly technical. It's quite a pleasant, long, kind of almost classical intro. And he worked out all the effect sounds, everything, got all the right filters through his keyboard, EQ'd it all, and played it this beautiful way for his audition. And basically accepted him for it, and he got the job. But what then happened is he was in the rehearsal learning from Bill, the previous player, I think his name was, and he just pressed one key and it just set off the track. And he was like, why did I bother learning all of that? But that kind of sold it to me that, I mean, acts at that level are doing it. And then what he was then able to do is, okay, so the track's doing that in the background. I can have a little jam over the top of that and actually make that gig kind of unique each time, because he's doing different things over what to enhance it. So that's what sold me on it, to be honest.
Embrace technology. Don't be afraid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, except I'm shit scared of AI, man. I don't know what's going on there. Is that where I draw the line? I don't know yet.
Before we go down
What
that
happens
though,
when they write songs for us, man? I don't want to do that.
let's go back to like the Knock Loose thing. I saw Knock Loose this year at Bloodstock, and like they definitely do
amazing.
The sub on purpose. It was them and Fit for an Autopsy as well also played. They do the exact same thing. They do when it's a big, into the double pedals, just boom, and you feel it just hit you.
Is it a bass boom, Cal?
Yeah, absolutely massive bass boom.
We'll show you what that looks like on the 15th.
But like,
We've got one
it's different. It's so different coming out of festival, main stage speakers. It's unbelievable how loud it is, and
especially when they will have designed.
I heard that show was really good.
It was, yeah.
I heard that. Like we played Knock Loose were playing. Yeah, I heard the show in the UK was really, really crazy. When they played up in Manchester, that was like an incredible show. That's what I heard. Couldn't make it up there, but soon, man. One day I've got to. I've never seen them live, so
really good.
It's like I'm dying.
Can I just say on the 15th, I'm just looking forward to us turning up with two banjos and a fucking tea crate. That's what it feels like. We need to get some technology.
But, I mean, it's something we've been building over time, really. Like, some of it is, by design. Some of it we just sort of brought it on board as we went. But it's long-term investment. I mean, the big one for us recently was getting a van. That's been life-changing, because now we can all turn up in one vehicle, comfortable, air-conditioned, all the gears out of our way. We're not like piled in. We've done gigs, man, where we were driving 2-3 hours of the car, just stoved into the back of the car with like an amp on our lap, and so we were like, "Oh, fuck it, enough of this. I'm going to save up." But yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's just one of those things. Like the more you do it, isn't it? I mean, we did loads of shows over the last few years where we take all the profit from those shows. We've never taken a cut for ourselves. We never take any personal money. I think the most we've done is had 2 beers each out of our out of the money the band makes. It all goes back into equipment and into, like, when it comes to recording, we're going to be doing some recording soon. So all of it's just reinvestment, and just at the moment we know we're not going to make money, so that's how we've got to do it until we can start making money and hopefully make a living out of it. It's like a long journey.
Yeah.
Callum.
Yeah, but you got to do it. You're compelled to do it, man. Like, I think that's the other thing about being in a band, especially in this day and age. It's not the early 90s anymore, or even the early 2000s, right? It's a little bit different now, but it goes in waves. There's a moment happening now, I think, with live,
I think so,
rock music. And I think it's honestly, it's a good time. I think
since
right
the
now.
lockdowns, I think the hunger for the unsigned sort of local raw music. I don't know if this kind of coincides with. I don't know if it's overthinking it or what, but I mean, I watch a lot of things like Clarkson's Farm, and everything seems to be becoming more local, or at least people are more now aware of their local brands, local things that they want to be involved in, creating from a sort of a bottom up, recreating the country almost, in kind of an underground way. And I think the local music scenes are doing a lot toward that. I think people are more supportive of, oh, actually, I've never heard this band, but my friends say they're really good. Why wouldn't I go and see them? Download Festival's £330 for a shit lineup this year. I could just spend a fiver and go see this band that I might really love, and maybe one day they'll be headlining Download. I think more and more people are thinking that way.
I think that's the difference, and it is going back to
totally.
like late 80s, early 90s. That's what you had to do again without sounding like an old fart. You used to literally go and put posters up around town to advertise your gig. There was zines, there was a network of postal stuff. How did you find out? Literally by going in and seeing who was playing. You go to the venue, see who's playing, don't know who they are. I've heard that they might be okay. I'll go and see them, and hopefully that sort of thing's coming back because
I hope so.
Particularly
I think it's more wholesome in general as well.
It's more enjoyable. That's the kind of excitement of going seeing a band and discovering someone that you'd not heard before, rather than they just swipe left or swipe right, whatever it is. 3 seconds into a song, no,
Yeah.
it's throwaway. It's so much easier to get your music out there now, but it's 10 times easier for it to be dismissed.
Whereas agreed. And a lot of people seem to be getting more and more aware of kind of how bad social media is for them, for example, and short form content. As much as it seems to be more popular now, long form content is even more popular than it's ever been, strangely. I mean, podcasts are at the height of popularity, and they're 2-3 hour episodes each, and you think that's a lot longer than when I used to watch a 20-minute TV episode, yet we consider short form content to be more popular. I mean, maybe purely based on the fact you can fit more in, but people aren't remembering it, for example. And there's really good examples. There's a comedian recently called Matt Rife who got really popular on TikTok with young ladies. He's a good-looking guy. He's very funny, and he had safe jokes on TikTok that he could get away with. Comes out with a Netflix special, makes one sort of misogynist joke in a sense, and now they're all trying to take him down. And it's like, it's very easy to get famous in that niche on TikTok for 5 minutes, but I don't know how much longevity comes from that. Yeah. Obviously, I have no experience being at that level, but
but it makes me think. I was listening to radio. It was on Radio 2, I think it was. There was some artist, a new artist that was being interviewed, and she was saying that she wanted to get. She played live, right, and that's how she was trying to get her fan base. But then when she started going on social media, she was getting a backlash from social media about the fact that she was playing live. So there was something about the social media aspect saying you're not authentic because you played live. Like how? I just didn't understand how that was.
Surely that's the base.
It just doesn't make, it just didn't make any sense in my brain. It's like, oh my gosh, somehow she has she doctored, she kind of doctored the crowd. It's like, do you know how difficult it is to get people to come to a show? That's insane, But yeah, we're living in a weird world. I think it's H.G. Wells, man. We're going in 2 directions, So let's see.
Do you know what? Yeah, I've been looking. We're very much with the band. We write a lot of dystopian sort of themed music videos and stuff. I mean, we're actually creating around the Regional One brand as a concept. Regional One itself is the place in which we're warning people about. It's like the distant future, right, or not so distant future, where everything's controlled and very 1984. But recently, I started watching. There's been a new television series that came out. I don't think it's that new, but within the last few years, of Brave New World. Now, I recommend that because it's a different take on where we're heading. I think it's definitely a lot closer to the mark. If you haven't read the book, it's pretty harrowing, but it's really, really good. It's Aldous Huxley. But the TV series is a bit more explorative and a bit more colourful. It's a bit more sort of Hollywoodified, if you like. It's a British show, by the way, very good. I recommend that. It's very much based on the concept. You just take a pill to feel better. And it's weird that there's kind of, they're considered savages. They call them the ancient people, who are essentially normal people to us. Like they're very kind of Texas kind of normal, they're a little bit insane, but like, fun. But they're considered savage because they don't have this technology that just makes them feel better whenever they want it. And everyone's divided into their different sort of categories. They're preordained when they're born. They're alpha, beta, gamma, whatever. Recommend that. I think that's more the direction we're headed, sadly, than any Orwell or Wells, sadly.
Yeah. Well, I read something the other day that the film Soylent Green was set either this year or last year. It was like 2020 something. Yeah. And that made me think a bit.
Yeah. Was it Back to the Future had its passing recently, didn't it? I think.
Yeah. It's quite a few. I think even Logan's Run, isn't that we've already passed that now. No one's heard of Logan's Run, but yeah, it's they're doing a remake of it for the kids, so you'll soon know what it is.
Oh no. Man, they got to give up on remakes, dude. I'm sick of remakes.
Leave it alone.
This sounds really spicy and horrible, but fucking Disney. I'm so glad they're not having a good year, man. I'm sick of all their remakes, dude.
Don't even mention Star Wars. What they've done to Star Wars.
They've murdered everything Lucasfilm. Indiana Jones, Star Wars. They've eaten all that and shut it back out. Leave it alone.
I know.
They need to create some stuff, man. Disney has probably the biggest budget on the planet for creatives, and they do nothing with it. It really frustrates me.
They don't seem to have the appetite to be able to create anything new now. It's always remakes of, like, they're remaking Ghostbusters or another classic film. Can you not just come up with something new rather than just changing the cast, making it from all female to male or vice versa?
Yeah.
Is that as original as you can possibly be to bring it into a new age? Can you not write something new?
Yeah, agreed.
I was excited by Rogue One, man. I have to admit, when I saw Rogue One,
cool.
Rogue One was good.
Oh, this is great. This is going to go in a direction that's great, and the whole thing just kind of fell off.
Yeah.
So let's see.
I watched a really good analysis, weirdly, of Rogue One the other day. But it's that last scene, the Vader scene. As much as it's playing on our nostalgia, it's actually a really poignant, meaningful scene. Like, the guy basically said that scene sums up the whole film perfectly. I was like, I get that. It's really good. Everyone just sort of sacrifices themselves for that last bit, without saying too much.
It's almost that thing that South Park did when they parodied those member berries, talking about, and that's kind of what it was one of those things that I thought they're not going to do that. Oh my God, that was it linked the two. And then when they opened the door and they had Leia standing, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. It was literally, I was in the cinema and there's all of these 40-odd-year-old blokes and we just looked at each other's crying,
Finally, the technology has arrived. The deepfake industry will be mine. I remember going to see that in the cinema with my mum because she's like the big Star Wars nerd of the family, and we went to see it. And I know what you mean about the Leia scene because I was like, that was really well done actually, and there wasn't really uncanny valley on it either. I thought it was actually probably the first one I saw where they de-aged someone and made it look really good.
Yeah, I think
we came out the cinema and then it was breaking news that Carrie Fisher had died, and I was like, "Oh, that's weird."
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
R.I.P.
on that. Yeah, man. Yeah, that was definitely the best of the Disney Star Wars films for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And then you get that utter garbage that we've just had to that Ahsoka. I was so
I'm not even going near it.
Honestly, I watched the first one. I said I'm not going to watch it. Of course I did, bit by bit by bit, and it got worse. And I got a friend as well. He said I watched the 4. I can't watch anymore. It's just absolute garbage. 3 weeks later, I said, so what did you think of the last 2 episodes? Then?
I've heard that was bad. Yeah, the thing is,
really,
I heard
really bad.
Because I saw some of the Obi-Wan series, and because that was their big chance to really redeem themselves, and they absolutely fucking car crashed that, didn't they? And I had to rubberneck a bit and have.
I didn't see it. I was really looking forward to it. I didn't see it because of all my, the amount of people that just don't even bother, But I will see it. I will.
Yeah, it is one of those where they how would you say it? They're definitely trying to make it their own in ways they shouldn't. I think they don't respect the source material, and that's probably
they don't respect the law, do they? Whatsoever. It's just they're trying to rewrite something rather than come up with something themselves. It is what it is, and when you have your childhood ruined by probably completely different for us being the age that we are. When I went to see Star Wars, and when I was 7 years old, I went to see it at the cinema, for Christ's sake. So between the age of 7 and 13, I grew up with it, and it meant everything to me. Then they bring it back and they just change things. And what's the first thing they do? They kill Han Solo.
Yeah.
They've
missed the biggest chance in history. All they needed was one scene with Luke, Leia, and Han. One scene, and they just couldn't even do that.
Just didn't do it.
That's insane.
Jesus, we need to form a support group for disaffected Star Wars fans.
Man, there's loads of them now. I think you see the ratings have really dropped for them. So
really so it should as well.
I mean, we've had so many of them lately as well. Doctor Who's just done another one, and guys, don't worry, we brought back your favourite actor. It's like,
I can't believe he keeps going. He must love playing Doctor Who because he comes back every single year.
He must be on a fat wad of cash for that.
Money.
Because I mean, have you seen what they've done to him, mate? It's anyone who likes Doctor Who, just don't bother with the new Doctor Who. Watch the fan fiction stuff. It's 10 times better.
It is tons better. Yeah, tons better.
And that's, again, Star Wars had a whole litany of fan fiction and like unofficial stuff they could have used. And they decided, nope, None of that's
Particularly
Disney.
that SC
Yeah.
was it SC-38, the old Obi and old Obi-Wan and Vader. That have you seen the reimagining of that? It was almost perfect.
Oh,
You know, I mean, but all of the ideas. Why not go to the fans? Why not incorporate?
Yeah.
Because they're the people that know. I think that's the big difference. That why they got the Vader scene in Rogue One so well, because Gareth Edwards, the director, was so entrenched in Star Wars.
Yeah.
He knew everything about it, how well it should be done, what should happen, and look at the success that he had of it, purely and utterly because he's making it for himself. He is the fan, isn't he?
Yeah, precisely
And
that. Yeah.
that's the point.
And as a fan, he kind of probably has a better understanding of what the people around him want to see as well, obviously. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many misses they're going to have. It's going to have to be a case soon where because they're not making profit on these films and shows anymore. It's going to have to turn around the other way. They're going to have to work on some original IPs, or they're going to have to actually start listening. Because Disney, their finances this year are actually abysmal. I don't think they've made profit on a single. No, I think they made profit on Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which is a holdover franchise anyway. All the others have lost money, including the creator, which I didn't even know was Disney.
I didn't. Is that Disney? No, I didn't. I've not seen it yet.
maybe.
It's on my list to watch, but I didn't know that was.
I could be wrong on that one. I'll check that one out.
I think it is. I think I remember seeing the
It
poster.
did make
now, you
losses,
mentioned it.
which surprised me. I thought that'd do quite well. So it looked pretty decent. But yeah, it's insane. They can't just.
It's
hit the
crazy when
mark,
you see
man.
with films, especially film franchises, how much they make just from the film, but it's the merchandising. They make 10 like so much more with merchandising. So I think it's why it's almost worth it to do remakes or whatever, just to get people interested and be like, oh, you know.
You know
Star
what?
Wars
Yeah,
and,
that is a thing. When I was you say that though, at Toys R Us, I worked at Toys R Us for 6 years on and off, and when the what was coming out at the time, I think I was there for a load of the new Doctor Who stuff. I think the first new Star Wars, I was still there. If I remember, I could be.
Was that
I
99?
know the merchandise was coming in for it. Yeah, so was it like 2000? I don't know when it was. Now I'm gonna have to check that out.
I think you're talking about Phantom Menace.
Force Awakens.
Oh no, the new
Force
stuff.
Awakens.
Oh.
Yeah. So
That's how fucking old I am. That's.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm still not okay with the Phantom Menace for Christ's sake, but that's another.
Yeah. But the big
Thing
things
is
that
that when
coming
the
out, so we
Phantom
had
Menace-
Marvel coming in. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, so when the Phantom Menace came out, there had been a long enough gap. And looking back, it wasn't a great film, but everybody flocked to see it. Then there was a couple of years, the next one come out, everyone flocked to see it.
Yeah.
Now you've had film, spin-off,
Too much in succession.
in between a prequel, film, spin-off, constantly thrown at you, and I think people have just gone, really, another one?
Yeah,
Another one
oversaturation.
again?
Yeah.
For a while,
Even
I
my
really
kids
enjoyed the
get
Marvel
fed up with them.
films, and there's 1,000 different TV series and 10 different movies now, and so they released the Marvels, which should be, by all rights, based on the name, the recognition, the fact it's Disney with a huge marketing budget. It should have made them some money, and it's not even crossed. I think domestically, it's not even crossed 100 million, and they've spent over 300 million at least on it.
Yeah.
You think that is a lot of money to piss away.
It's bad.
And they're not
is-
learning either.
Yeah.
It was only a few years ago when Marvel was just every film was $1 billion upwards.
Yeah.
Every film, and this one can't even break 100 million, dude. What?
Yeah. It's like that. It's probably easier now as well to read like Marvel comics.
Yeah,
Like, we've gone
it's
full
less
circle.
convoluted for sure.
Yeah, it's. I think we've gone like full circle, and it's probably easier just to read all the comics than.
From my understanding, to understand the new Marvel film, you'd need to watch 2 seasons of a Loki show.
Yeah, you need
A Captain Marvel, no, a Miss Marvel show. The other 20 films before it.
Yeah.
and like 2 other series, and you're like, well, I'm not.
I think you need to watch Secret Invasion as well, don't you? Because
Secret Invasion. No one's gonna watch that. Come on.
Exactly. It's like I've given up.
Man, if they kept it interesting after Endgame, even Endgame was falling off a cliff, but if they could have kept it going, all they needed to do was bring in the fucking X-Men or Fantastic Four, and they couldn't even do that. Like,
I agree.
Idiots. Disney are idiots, dude.
I
Or
agree.
is it 4D
X-Men,
chess and they're
man, that
going
was
to release
awesome.
it in 2030? The big comeback for Disney.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know, man. It's crazy. I hope we don't do that as musicians. I hope we never get that disconnected, you know.
We just make stuff for the sake of it. Yeah, we don't want to become Metallica.
Well,
You're
yeah,
going to be the
agreed,
Kiss
yeah.
Avatar tour.
Oh, we haven't shit on Metallica this week. Yes, I shit on them every week lately because we saw them at Download and they absolutely sucked. Like they didn't want to be there, and I think it was.
Did you take your shoe off and throw it at Lars?
No, he was too far away. He was on this huge pedestal in the fucking heavens. Yeah.
At this point, people must think we tell the guests beforehand to mention Metallica. It is every single week.
The thing is, Bring Me the Horizon had headlined, and then Metallica headlined. Bring Me the Horizon, by the way, brought probably one of the single best shows I've ever seen at Download Festival. Full stop. Full stop ever, actually, I've ever seen. And then Metallica turned up, and they just didn't feel like they wanted to be there at all. They did this whole self-aware band thing. You know, it's a bit cringe sometimes. Where he came on stage, he was like, "Oh, why did they put us on the stage with the good bands?" It's like, dude, you're Metallica.
Oh,
Don't
it's
say
painful.
that. So
All this
you're
is
meant to come out here and be the biggest guy on the planet.
Yeah. That's the entire
Yeah.
point. Everyone is there. It's literally like Wayne's World, isn't it? We're not worthy, and they aren't worthy.
No, they've got to live up to it somehow, and they don't.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
I do wonder if it's an issue with expectation versus reality there, but Lars sucked. You just can't play drums after all these years.
No, you can't.
The future is
point-
Metallica Voyage for sure. You know, like that'll happen. You know, it's sort of like similar to ABBA Voyage. Like that's going to happen. You know, for sure it will. You know,
Yeah,
it totally
I
will.
wonder if they can
And we know it
program the
will,
drums
you know?
bad enough, though. You know, they can't just
Someone
quantize
actually
it because it won't sound like Metallica.
I must find it. Someone actually did that. They did like a MIDI version of Lars and tried to emulate him. They said that they put the strongest setting on human eyes. They said, "I need a dehumanize button to press it." It says he's just got a particular way of just stumbling through a song
Just
where
missing
he's ahead and then he's behind. Yeah. Then he's building up something really interesting and he just misses it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is insane.
Alright.
It's like non-drummers seem to quite like Lars Ulrich, but anyone who plays drums, I think, looks
Yeah.
at Lars Ulrich and goes, "Come on."
Yeah, it's painful. Isn't it? It's almost
Yeah.
the opposite of the Thomas Harker effect, isn't it? It's
I'm gonna have to look up Thomas Harker now. One sec.
Meshuggah.
Oh, the painter. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
With you.
No, Thomas, the drummer from Meshuggah.
Oh, I was gonna say.
Thomas, no, H-A-A-K-E. Drummer from
Ah.
Meshuggah.
Yes, I see. I'm gonna look that one up later. I'm gonna have a watch afterwards. I got a video ready.
How about look? Just Google Thomas Harker Clockworks. That playthrough. That's
What was?
Clockworks. Yeah.
We've
I'll
seen
send you a link.
they put the whole Bloodstock performance up on YouTube for Meshuggah. They're like headline
Oh,
show.
yeah, I've
It
been meaning
was-
to watch that.
I've watched quite a few of them. They are it's insane. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a shame about their latest LP. It's just garbage, but everything about it is garbage as far as it's the only LP that I just never listen to. It's such a shame. The production is muddy and horrible. It loses everything that is good about Meshuggah, and it just seems that they couldn't be bothered. It's almost like the last Tool LP. 13 years for that shit, and we've got 1.5 really good songs on it. You know,
That's about 3 hours of content now. So
Yeah.
you know, I love some of the stuff they're doing, but it's like it just seems like they became lazy, and I think Meshuggah have done the same sort of thing. I'm not saying that you should go back to the 90s, or like nothing or whatever, but considering what they did prior to that, Violent Sleep of Reason, it was heading in a decent direction, and then everything about it just seemed wrong. It was so disappointing. It's unbelievable.
But that's a universal truth. All bands do this. Like I heard, like the latest Helmet album was horrible.
It's fucking
it was really
awful,
bad. And I think the latest
I'm so
Quicksand
glad
album
you-
was
I'm so
really
glad you said
terrible.
that.
They must lose contact. It must be when the feedback loop becomes too distant, because these bands seem to only do it when they're quite big, right? I wonder if that's what it is. And I thought this about Disney as well, because their feedback loop is very indirect now. Like Netflix don't give out their figures, all these sort of platforms that are streaming and whatnot. They don't really have a live feedback loop now. So it's not like, oh, well, we didn't sell 1 billion tickets to this, so we'll do something different. It seems more that the internet is their feedback loop, and they can pocket themselves really easily on the internet into something that just agrees with them anyway.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's the case. And I think that's probably the same with the bigger bands, where they're not in basement venues chatting with 10 people at the end of the show. I
Well,
do
that
wonder if
person
that's
that's
a big
driven
part of it.
75 miles to come and see you, that's because they mean that much to you.
Precisely, yeah.
It's just bizarre. You don't know, and especially how different they can make it from one record to another. It's like you've literally lost the essence of who you are. Even when you've not lost any members and there's no reason, you've still got the same producers, everything behind you. It just seems that you just can't be bothered. So many bands have done it, and it's so disappointing. It's particularly like in Tool's case when you've waited 13 years for a piece of shit. It's
we're not doing the same. We're not saying the same thing we were saying about the films a minute ago. Though we all watched the original Star Wars, we loved them. We're not taken with the new stuff. Is it us though? Is it maybe it's not the music? Maybe it's not the film. Maybe it's just us and our expectations.
I do wonder that because I tried to be as objective as possible with these things, and I learned a lot about storytelling, for example, when it comes to the film industry. And I watch a lot of critics, and especially online critics who discuss story elements in stupid detail, really. And I wonder if it is just on nostalgia for it. So I have quite a big nostalgia for the Lord of the Rings trilogy, for example. For me, that's the perfect trilogy. We went to see the full 12-hour thing in the cinema recently in a day. It was very good.
It was great.
I was sore at the end just from sitting. It was good.
And then the Hobbit happens, and it's like,
yeah. Now I don't mind the Hobbit, but it's obviously not a scratch on Lord of the Rings, and I do think it's just down to that one was studio interference, I think, and time budgeting. They weren't given any time to work on that, and also they were forced to stretch one book into 3 films. It's obviously.
Seems to
They
be the
didn't
way
capture
now,
the essence of The Hobbit at all. Whereas Lord of the Rings was perfectly captured. The essence of it was captured.
What do you think to the Dune film compared to?
I've not read the Dune book, actually. Callum's probably the one to speak to on that one.
Why would
they do Dune 2 though?
If Dune 2 is off the rails, like the second book is unbelievable. I can't see him doing that at all. But the first Dune was amazing because it was almost bang on like the book, like even like dialogue in the thing is like taken from the book. I thought it was amazing. They did it so much justice.
I did the first film. I didn't really know much about Dune at all. I watched the film with no expectations, and it blew me away.
It's a good replacement for Star Wars.
Have you seen the David Lynch Dune, like the old Dune?
I've not. I want to go back. And watch it.
I would highly recommend that. I would highly recommend it because they squeezed both parts, because obviously the new Dune's in 2 parts, but they squeezed it all into one like hour and 40-minute film, and it's I don't know, but it's so funny. Yeah,
it is.
Is it just
great?
I do want to see that actually. That is on my watch list. Dune, I think that was one of the first films I'd seen in quite a while where I came out of the cinema thinking this felt like something completely new that I'd not experienced before. Like the soundscapes and the landscapes and everything together. I mean, there was kind of an essence of the Blade Runner 2049 in terms of the vastness of the I guess the set design, but this one took it to a whole new level. Hans Zimmer's score was just perfect. I think it felt really fresh. There was just one line that I couldn't get on board with. That's desert power.
I love that.
One threw me right back into the room. I was like, "Whoop."
You've got to try and shoehorn that as a lyric into a song.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'll get it in there somehow, man.
That's desert
blew
power.
my mind. That's
makes
desert
you think of
power. It is desert power. He's right.
Well, what a Power Ranger would say, isn't it? Pink Power Ranger going, that's desert power.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely blew me away that one line, because everything else was quite. Because I think one of the weaknesses we've got nowadays when it comes to film is the script writing tends to be a bit poor. Like I don't know if it's just in general the level of, I guess, English dialogue has gone downhill in Hollywood. It doesn't seem as thought out. It doesn't seem as meticulous, or I don't know. It's missing something that gives it depth, I think. And I thought it was pretty good throughout the film. They were discussing some fairly nuanced topics, and there was some complexity to the language. And then he just came out with that as desert power. I couldn't.
Maybe it's right.
I loved it. But yeah, Dune's amazing. I can't wait for the second one.
I can't wait to see how they do the little everything, because it does go a little bit crazy.
I've heard that there is going to be a part 3.
No
I
way.
think they'll string it out.
Might be the second book.
But in the trailer, There's a scene where it is the last part of the book in the
Yeah.
trailer.
But I think they're going to do the second book. I think Denis
Oh my
Villeneuve,
God.
I don't know how to say his name, he's French. The French man called Dennis, he is
Denis
going to be
Villeneuve.
doing more Dune. I think they want to franchise it, which I'm up for if he's directing.
That would be crazy because the second
He
one.
loves Dune, man. he
insane.
loves it. Apparently that's his dream film to make, so he finally got there after like trudging through a bunch of other stuff. So
Roger,
that's what you want, isn't it? You want a director whose dream it is to make that film, right?
Yeah, because you know he's going to be hopefully be faithful to it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, he did.
That's what you hope.
He did the Blade Runner
Exactly.
2049 as well.
Yeah,
Alright,
I
okay.
really liked Blade Runner 2049, although it was a bit slow. I really
And,
liked it.
Arrival. Have you seen Arrival?
Yes.
Yes.
Great film.
He's into those big vast spaces.
Yeah, he
man.
loves it. He loves giant spaceship.
But
Yeah,
pointless films.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, chaps, I just realised the time. Should we do a closing question and just remind people that on the 15th of December we will be in Yeovil with Empire of One, Regional One, and James Haynes, who is next week's guest. You heard it here first. So yeah, come on down to Yeovil. I will put a ticket link in the chat momentarily while Callum looks at the last question of the evening.
Let's do. What can we do? I'm looking at my little list. We'll do a good question. Have you got any new exciting things coming up?
Aside from the gig,
Aside from the gig.
Well,
we've
yeah,
got another gig.
We've got
Yeah.
another gig. Yeah.
Maybe of this one.
Yeah, in
Another
Bristol,
gig with,
at the Exchange in Bristol on the 26th of January. So that'd be great.
Who are we playing
come
with?
out
What
to
are they
that.
called?
I've heard there's a few
Yeah.
bands on the bill.
I
There's
forgot the name of the band.
Up
There's
and
a
comers, aren't
Duskwood.
they? Duskwood, yeah. And who are they? What-
Regional One on the.
Oh yes, yes. And now you mentioned,
Yeah.
now you mentioned that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Regional One on the ticket. Here we go.
yeah. 26th of January at the Exchange in Bristol. Duskwood, Regional One, and Empire One. Get your tickets now before they go. It's
Yeah,
we're
man.
playing in the basement, so it's going to be an intimate venue. So hopefully people want to come on down. I think is it the first time you've played Bristol?
Yeah, it's our
Yeah.
Bristol debut. So we've got a few people up in Bristol who I believe will be coming along anyway. We've been asked at a few shows. So we'll see you in Bristol,
Excellent.
Bristol.
I know Duskwood have said they've played there maybe once or twice before, so they've always got a decent following there, and it'll be our second time in Bristol as well. So we're looking
Awesome.
looking forward to that.
Let's make it a fucking party. I think that's our only gig in January. We're working on a lot of writing over Christmas.
You're not even trying, are you? Really, one
No,
gig.
I know, one gig. That's the point. yeah. So we'll be working on some things. We'll be testing some new songs in the new year, and maybe one or two little videos we might pop out soon for some current tracks, and maybe one or two covers. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
We should be recording at least a single early next year as well.
Very
one of the songs
nice.
that we're working on, which is just about ready to go. So that will be. We're gonna. I think now this day and age, I think it makes more sense to kind of drip feed your content rather than disappearing for 18 months and doing an LP. So I think that's kind of what we're likely to do. Certainly, there'll be at least one, if not two songs coming out, but it won't be any more than that, I don't think. So that'll be early next year. We'll be recording and releasing that. So
Nice
We got
one.
names
Well,
for them
keep an
yet?
eye out for that.
sorry, Tom.
Have we got names for them yet?
No.
Names is the last thing, dude.
Ah,
Yeah,
Our
name
words
is.
and titles are insane.
Yeah,
though.
new song number 2. And
That's it, yeah.
a
Yeah,
potential
that's it.
new song.
yeah.
What was the one we had the big bouncy blues jumpy fuck song?
Yeah.
That one came out as louder, by the way.
Is that
That
and
makes
then,
sense if you heard it.
that and should we play this one in drop D or drop C?
Oh yeah. Question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice one. Well, absolute pleasure chat with you guys. I'm really looking forward to week after next, actually. So not
Yeah,
long.
not long.
Next
Week on
Friday,
Friday.
get those tickets. Link in chat. We'll see you guys in Yeovil, and we'll have a word with you beforehand regarding gear and all that kind of stuff. But mainly, let's have fun and enjoy everyone's company and make sure we're all having a
Absolutely.
fucking party.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good one. Yeah.
Nice
Looking
one.
forward
Well,
to it.
thank
Thanks
you.
a lot, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again, guys, and thank you to everyone watching at home. Cheers for tuning in. We will see you all shortly.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for having us.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.